Hello everyone, Dimensions and Transcendence is finally here with us, and as you can see here, I've just completed the left-right Crucible and the final gate um, just now. And I will be uploading all three videos onto YouTube, so you can check out the left and right Crucible runs if you're interested in those. I will put a link to those runs in the video description as well. But this video will cover specifically the Reckoning fight, um, which is a quest level 220, sort of like a more difficult Lufenia stage. As always, before heading into the battle, I'll be giving a quick overview of the party setup that I used, as well as some key notes regarding the strategy that I have taken. I will also be including a timestamp in the video description that you can use to skip ahead to the section that you are interested in. So first of all, party setup. It is quite a tricky Lufenia fight because there are several different mechanics that you need to actually prepare countermeasures for, and to make things more difficult, you are restricted in the sense that you can only use units that you have used in the left and right Crucible. So my advice for those who have not yet started this fight is to actually plan which three characters you want to take into the Reckoning stage before you do the left and right Crucible. And once you've made that decision, you then split your three characters between your clear parties for the left and right Crucible. And that way, it's easier to put together your party once you come to the Reckoning stage. It has two waves. The first wave is a little bit more straightforward. It's the Lunatic Effect, which is the boss from Ultimasia's Lufenia stage. They don't come with a recast bar. However, there are two mechanics that you need to prepare for on wave 1 alone. The first of which is their Lufenia Orb, which starts at the start of battle and will reappear when it hit 49%. And the only way to increase the Lufenia Orb here is to inflict 2 or more debuffs in one turn. And this can either be 2 or more debuffs on one enemy or 1 debuff on each enemy. So you just need at least 2 total debuffs inflicted in one turn to increase the counter. And when you do that, it will increase the counter on both the bosses, regardless of which boss the debuff lands on. So essentially, you really need someone who can inflict 2 or more debuffs, and that will fulfill the trigger. Though having said that, each time you inflict the debuffs, it only increases the count by 2. And because the count ticks down by 1 when you take an action, the net effect is that your turn spending to inflict debuffs will only increase the count by 1. So depending on who you have in your party, this can be a little bit tricky. And it can turn into somewhat of a DPS race against the orb if you do not have enough debuff inflicting units in your party. The second mechanic that you need to prepare for is they will battery themselves through Aqua Power, and when they do that, they will reduce all brave damage taken to 1 on top of getting massive brave. It's about 60 or 65,000 brave. And they will use Demon Splash attack on their next turn, which is essentially going to KO your party member unless you can somehow break them before their next turn. They do help you a little bit because they will self-delay when they use Aqua Power, so you will have some room, but you really need to either have characters with instant break in their kit or characters who can gravity shave the 65,000 bravery. Either way would work. Or I guess the third alternative way is that Demon Splash is only a single target attack. So if you have a tank character, for example Gladiolus, he can actually just tank the Demon Splash attack and then counter attack the Lunatic Effect. So Gladio is also another option that you can bring into the party. To me, the best character for wave 1 hands down would be Gabranth, because Gabranth alone will handle both the mechanics on wave 1. So for example, he actually can counter attack, or I should say counter debuff, whenever the bosses take a turn. So essentially, each time the bosses do any sort of attack on your party members, they will be inflicted with debuffs, and you will increase the orb counter. And Gabranth alone is enough to ensure that the Lufenia orb counter always remains healthy. Nicely, Gabranth also carries instant break in his kit. His LD and skill number 2 will instant break the unit, so you can use that. Sorry, not LD, his EX and skill number 2. Apologies. We can also instant break the Aqua Power battery, and that will allow you to continue damaging the lunatic effects. So that's why I included Gabranth in my party. On the second wave, though, it's a little bit more difficult. They do have a recast ability, which is actually just a simple brave into HP attack, which may not seem very threatening, but the challenging thing about wave 2 is that at the 79%, 49%, and 29% HP threshold, they will get the flame aura, and when that happens, you can actually see the flames surrounding the boss. When that happens, each time your party member takes a turn, they will be sapped. They will lose 50%. That's right, 50% of their own HP. Although it cannot take you to 0, but it will just deplete you to 1 at the most. But it will, and they will also heal about 80,000 HP each time your character takes a turn. And 80,000 HP equates to about 2% health. And the only way to remove the flames is to inflict knockback on the boss. So you do need to prepare launches at the 79, 49, and 29% HP threshold. And try not to have too many turns when the flames are up, otherwise you will heal the bosses too much, and it will ruin your run. Across both waves, you are only allowed 95 turns to clear, and you can see I took 90 turns, and that is with me using Cloud's Burst, so it is pretty tight in turn count. I actually think it may be possible to complete without using burst mode, however, that will require a little bit more optimal play in terms of damage per turn, and it is going to be extremely tight without going into burst mode. And if you look at the HP requirement, it also requires you to complete the fight taking less than 15,000 HP damage. And since you lose 50% of your health each time you take a turn under Flames effect, this means that you do need some sort of healer as well in your party. To top it off, the Lufenia orb requires you to be always at full HP to freeze the orb. Do note that the orb will still remain frozen if you lose HP. The orb will only unfreeze if the bosses take a turn while you have less than full HP. So what this means is that during the flame scenario, for example, where you take HP damage, the orb will still remain frozen as long as you do all your actions and heal yourself to full before the bosses take their next turn. Because of this, the two party members that I used are Cloud and Paladin Cecile. So Cloud will fulfill the launch, and Paladin Cecile will fulfill the healer role, as well as providing nice auras to the party. I also equipped Keys and Ramza Call as backup launches, and Keys also provides a nice Brave Leak debuff to help Cloud during his burst as well. And my third call, I actually set Root, and that's mainly to be used at the start to trigger the blessing from Diabolos summon. Overall, it is quite a tricky fight, and I think the key to success here is to try to conserve your launch skills. So Cloud's Finishing Touch, Ramza and Keys Call for wave number 2. And the idea behind it is to try to hit the 79, 49, and 29% breakpoints when you are near to a character who can do a launch. The way I spread the calls though, all three of my party members can actually do a launch. So Paladin Cecile and Gabranth can use their calls respectively, whereas Cloud can just use finishing touch. So that way, a launch isn't always is always quite near at hand, and that will allow me to handle the launch for wave 2. I would also recommend to save your burst and summon phase for wave 2, so that you can use those during the 49 and 29% flame mechanic, respectively. So that's it. Let's head on to the battle. I'll see you there. Okay, so starting from wave 1, like I said, wave 1 is pretty straightforward as long as you have characters who can instant break, gravity shave, or tank the demon splash attack. So since I have Gabranth in my party, he can handle the orb and instant break. So wave 1 is actually pretty harmless with this party setup. And the key to success in this Dimensions End stage is to not rush wave 1. So I decided to take my own sweet time and I save most of the key skills for wave 2. Especially coming to Paladin Cecile's Holy Enchant to the party. Wave 2 has bosses with extremely high defenses, so hitting for holy weakness damage actually helps a lot on wave 2, and that's why you need to save Paladin Cecile's additional ability there. At the start of the fight, I really just inflict all my debuffs. I use 1 LD each from Cloud and Paladin Cecile, and really this is just to get everyone to full speed as quickly as possible. From then on in, I actually save all of Cloud's remaining LD and finishing touch skills, and I save them all for wave 2. On hindsight, I think that's a bit too much. You can actually use 1 or 2 more on wave 1, but I decided to be safe rather than sorry. You should be using more of Cloud's cross slash on wave 1 because you don't really need it for wave 2. So with Cloud, I just go cross slash into his EX whenever it's up. For Gabranth, it's very important to save his skill 2, which is Guilty, when you need it to instant break, because there will be several times during the fight where the bosses will battery themselves and will gain brave damage reduction. During those times, you either want to use Gabranth's S2 or Gabranth's EX to instant break them. So any other time when Gabranth's turn comes up, you want to use one of his other skills. Try not to use his LD until you need to refresh it, because this Transcendence fight is a very long one and you need to space out his LD use as much as possible. Okay, so this is the first time the bosses use Aqua Power, and very nicely Gabranth's EX happens to be fully charged here, so I use his EX to instant break one of them, and I will be able to use his S2 to instant break the other the next time he gets a turn. So that's it really for wave 1. At 79% the orb will disappear, but the orb will reappear at 49%. But as long as you have Gabranth in your party, you don't have to worry about the orb. If you don't have Gabranth, you do need to consider other characters who can debuff, because you do need their help in managing the orb count as much as possible. You can potentially just summon to burst down the Aphex at the last 49% health, but it's really a waste of summon, and I feel summon is better used at wave 2. Okay, so the both bosses have used Aqua Power again. You do want to keep a very close eye on the turn bar because Gabranth is the only character with instant break here. So you do want to try to at least provide him enough turns to be able to instant break both bosses in time. If you can't, your only other solution is to inflict paralysis with Cloud's Cross Slash, paralyze one and instant break the other, and then instant break the one that you paralyzed after that. Okay, I will just fast forward the rest of wave 1 because from here on it's pretty straightforward. Just remember to be a bit conservative in skill uses. Doesn't matter if you take a little bit extra on wave 1 because you have burst and summon that you can use on wave 2. Okay, so in total it took me 52 turns to complete wave 1, and here I am on wave 2 with most of my LD skills intact. On wave 2 from 100 to 79%, it is a pretty straightforward fight. You do want to try to avoid breaks as much as possible so that the boss's recast bar won't fill up as fast. Their recast attack isn't so bad, but it's very dangerous if you let them have a full recast ability the same time when they have their flames up. So try to bring them out of flames and heal yourself before they do their recast attack. Because the first 100 to 79% you don't have to deal with the flames and you don't have to deal with any Lufenia orb. It is pretty straightforward, and I still try to be a little bit conservative here. I spend some skills to inflict debuffs, but otherwise I try to use attacks such as Paladin Pecils Luminous Blast, for example, to deal damage, and Cloud using his Cross Slash Steel and EX to deal damage, all the while preparing to launch when they hit the 79% HP threshold. Okay, so at 79%, they will get the Flames Aura. Here is where I used Case LD Call to inflict his Brave League debuff, and the reason for this is I'm about to use a launch, and later on at 49% I will be using Cloud's Burst as well, and having the Brave League effect still active then goes a long way in DPS. So I didn't want to wait too many turns for Cloud to launch. If Cloud actually got a turn immediately when they get Flame, that would be ideal so that he can just finishing touch launch. But since he is 3 turns away, I decided to just let Paladin Cecile use Ramza Call and inflict launch that way at the 79% mark. So once you launch them at 79% and remove the flames effect, ideally you want to try to heal back to full before the bosses get their next turn, so that the Lufenia orb remains frozen. If you can't, it's okay if they take a turn, but you do want to try to heal immediately after that, so that the orb still remains with as many count as possible. At this point, the bosses are about to do their recast attack, so here I use one of Gabranth's AA to reduce the incoming HP damage. Ideally also you want to try to get them to use their recast attack before you hit the 49% threshold, so that their recast attack and their flames effect isn't overlapping. You also want to keep a very close eye on the Brave League debuff, because the 6 turns that Case inflicts will only really last you up to around the 49% threshold, and you do want to pop Cloud's Burst before Brave League fades away, because it does provide Cloud a significant boost to the damage he can do during burst mode. Okay, when they are between 50 to 55%, what you want to do is get Cloud to use his Blade Beam LD before they hit 49% threshold. So this is really the best time to use it. Okay, so on Cloud's turn, both bosses just hit the flame mode, and here is where I use Cloud's burst to remove both of them from flame mode, as well as try to bring them down to the 29% health as soon as possible. So you want Cloud to do as many launches as possible during his burst because he does benefit from Case's Brave Leak, and this is why I used Blade Beam before his burst so that he can start off with a free finishing touch. The other thing you need to take note of in burst mode is to use his burst finisher on the boss that can be launched next. So if you follow this burst rotation, he will do finishing touch right before his burst finisher. Right, so this is his finishing touch right before the burst finisher. So it launches boss B, meaning now boss A will have the launch status, and this means that you want to use his burst finisher on boss A. So the reason for this is Cloud's burst finisher deals a lot of damage, and it will very likely bring the boss down to the 29% threshold, as you can see, and this will actually trigger the flame effect as well. However, because boss A also is under launch status, this allows you to immediately remove the flame effect right after Cloud's burst animation has ended. So this just leaves one final flame mode, which is the 29% HP threshold on boss B that you need to prepare for. And I try to take the time to quickly heal myself before the boss's next turn. If for some reason you can't heal yourself in time, you may want to consider popping summon, and this will allow you the turns you need to bring boss B down to 29% and remove the flame status. However, I decided not to pop summon yet because my paladins have still managed to get everyone's HP to full in time. Okay, the bosses are very close to their recast attack, and I'm also very close to the 29% HP threshold on boss B, so I decided to pop summon here so that I can at least guarantee my Cloud being able to launch boss B and have enough turns to heal immediately after the launch. Okay, so once you pass the flame mode on the 29% HP threshold and you get to heal yourself to full, from then on it's really home free. The 29% HP threshold is the last time they will use flame mode, and as long as you can heal yourself after that, all their attacks wouldn't be very risky, including their recast attack. If you want, you can have Gabranth use his remaining AA to tank the second recast attack. So really, the entire wave 2, if you execute it correctly, you should only see at most 2 recast attacks from the flame masks, which will coincide very nicely with 2 of Gabranth's AA users. So his additional ability will really significantly neuter the HP damage from the recast attack. So that's it. All in all, I think I was a little bit too conservative because as you can see here, I actually ended the fight using Cloud's Blade Beam, which actually means that if I was a bit more aggressive in ability users, I could potentially shave off a few more turns. But anyway, for an initial run, I'll take it as it is. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, do leave a like, comment or subscribe. It really helps a lot. Till then, I'll see you in the next Lufenia fight. Bye bye. So this is the setup for the party that I used in case you're interested in the sphere or artifact passives.